My name's Adam Chapman. I have two companies, one being PadPal. It's a home service company in Ottawa, Canada. Been doing that for 8 years now. And then also Home Service University, which is online education, helping people start and scale home service companies.
Yeah, which I definitely love because I pretty much tell everybody that you don't need college these days. My kid doesn't need college. It's just super outdated, zero ROI. And I think the home service education is probably really good for a lot of people because it's easy to wrap your head around. It's like, okay, I understand. It's simple to understand. It's easy to wrap your head around. And if you're really a hard worker, you can pretty much anybody can get into it, right?
Yeah, and guaranteed to do well. Like, there's not many businesses that you can start with like $100 and make $200 your first day or $500 your first day. Like, so that's a good part of it.
What are all the home services that the business that you have now offers to the homeowner?
So we've done a variety of different services over the years. Like I call it service stacking. So we do currently in-house, we do window cleaning, gutter guards, like the leaf covers, and then Christmas lights. That's what we do in-house. And then we subcontract all of our like seal coating, our parking lots, line painting. We used to subcontract also like interlocks, like pavers. But what the guy that we had was always getting booked out like a year in advance. So we just kind of stopped that.
So basically the lead comes in, they call in from, they're already your existing client. They're like, hey, can you actually epoxy our garage or something? And you're like, yeah, no problem. I'll bid it out. And then you just send a guy out and do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we have subcontracted like a few epoxy floors and stuff like that. Cause once you like build up your name and kind of, we were just saying like trustworthy, I could launch PadPal painting tomorrow and send out an email campaign and we would have quote requests we'd have over 100 quote requests, and then we could go there and price the job at a premium, and just because they know what to expect from us, like we'll be closing the deals.
Yeah, you are going to show up, manage a job, somebody's going to be paying attention, and they know somebody's going to come finish the work, which is a big deal in home services and construction and anything that has to do with your house. I'm sure everybody out there's had like a contractor that hasn't shown up. Okay, awesome. So tell us, like, rewind it all the way back and tell us actually, what did you go to college? Did you not go to college? What was your school like and how you got into this?
Yeah, so like I was raised like by a single mother, and the only thing that I knew my whole life was hockey. Like that was the only thing. It was either like go to the NHL or you'd be homeless basically. Like I didn't know about business or anything at all. I played major junior in Canada, so I played in the CHL, which is like the best league you can play, and then I signed pro when I was 20, and my plan was just to grind it out in pro hockey forever. And then I had a really bad concussion and it was giving me like convulsions for like 3 days. I've had a lot of concussions. That one was like really bad, and basically the pro team was like, hey, you can't stay here, like you can't play anymore. So then I was staying in my car for a month, and that's how I got into university, was because I had like, when you play junior, they give you money for school. They like fight you to death for it, but you're entitled to 5 years of paid university in Canada. Can't go to the States because you technically played pro before. And then when I was at university, I was just in class and I was like, saw one of my teacher's assistants had an Audi, and I was like, yo, what do you do? And he said home services. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And then he told me like window cleaning and stuff, basically begged him to teach me, like asked him like week after week. And then he said, fine. And then I just started going door to door. Had literally no money to my name and started knocking on doors, and did $55,000 my first summer outside of university. And then
what was the service that you
window
started
cleaning,
with?
gutter cleaning, power washing.
Okay, that was it.
Just that. Yeah.
So pretty much something anybody can do. How much does how much does somebody have to start with for maybe just window cleaning and then gutters? You don't need much, right?
Yeah, you don't need much. Like you get started with gutter cleaning, all you need is a ladder and garbage bags. Okay. Like that's like $100 bucks for a ladder. Window cleaning, same idea. You can go and get cheap stuff. I actually did a series on my TikTok where I went from my front door with no money, and then like went out that day and just brought home like $580 from zero. I started with no money. So I started in February, but you can't clean windows where I'm from in February. So I went February, all of March, like after class or like between everything, and then went door to door, and I collected deposit money to buy my window cleaning equipment when the spring came.
That's really cool, and I think that a lot of people need to hear that, and that's such a cool video that you actually prove that you can walk out the door, go to the next house, go to some houses, and by the end of the day, you've already made money.
I could leave this podcast studio in Houston, Texas, and come home today to the hotel with $1,000 guaranteed.
Yeah,
just by knocking on people's door. That's an understatement.
I would agree with that. And so I think most people think that you have to have a bunch of money to start a business. That's the general idea, right? Mm-hmm. And they just don't understand that pretty much true hustle. And then, if somebody has a class like yours, or somebody to even teach them just a little bit, like, here's the blueprint, even though if it's so simple, as long as they hustle, they can go make money.
Yeah, 100%. Like, these services are needed out there. And yeah, like, you could literally go, after listening to this podcast, go out today, knock on doors, ask people if they want a free gutter cleaning check to see if their gutters are full. And you put your ladder up there, there's stuff in their gutters, you take a photo, you say, hey, listen, you need your gutters clean. There's $200 right there.
How does somebody know how to charge for it? They just, if it's just them, then I guess you already know how much profit you're going to have in it. But if you have labor, then
it's pretty simple. Like, I always say, guys, like, the beautiful thing about home services, like, especially like windows or gutters, is you're never going to lose money. Like, even if you went to the house and said, yeah, $100,
might take you
no house is going to take you more than 4 hours or 5 hours. So you're still probably making just as much you'd do working for someone else. Like, there's no real way you could lose money in home service. Like, I don't know how that would even be possible to do.
God, you could do so even in high school. So if somebody went to school all day, they get out at 3:00. They could just go straight and clean gutters for 3-4 hours and make a shit ton of money every week.
Yeah, I have some guys in high school that are like killing it, like making like $40,000 in Christmas lights in grade 12 outside of high school. Like, they're doing like a job or two in the evenings and then some door to door and then a full weekend of jobs. And
you know why? You have unlimited energy when you're young. Like, I mean, literally, if you're going to do something, you should do it then. You have such like endless amount of energy, and you can work basically. You get out of school and work till it gets dark, and then you work all weekend and go straight back to school on Monday and make a bunch of extra money, right?
And it's addicting too. Yeah. Like I remember the first time, my first deal I ever sold, like, it was $500, and I was like, I left there, I was like super nervous, and he said yeah to it, like, for the quote, and I took my deposit, and I was just like, yo, this is what I'm going to do to give that life. Like, this right here is exactly what will give me the life I knew right away. I'm like, this will give me like the life I've always wanted. And yeah, I was like an addiction to the home services. Like, it would be like Canada Day. It's not even a thought of going out and doing something. It's like, hey, it's Canada Day. Everyone's going to be at home. I'd get all the guys, go door to door, and just like make like $4,000 in a day, just door to door sales. Like,
I feel like it would almost be even more successful somewhere where it probably didn't get as cold, right? Because you could work longer in the season. I mean, I guess you could go shovel snow or do something else.
Yeah, it's definitely a benefit to be somewhere where it's a bit warmer for sure. And then there are services you can do throughout the winter. Like, we're big on Christmas lights. We don't do any snow. I like stay away from that with a 10-foot pole.
Okay.
Just way too hard to keep everyone happy with that and ruin the reputation. But yeah, like, it's definitely a benefit to be somewhere like warmer for sure, because then you can do more year round, longer days and stuff too.
So you went to school, or you were at university. You saw the assistant, and the assistant, drives a nice car. He mentored you, kind of just showed you some basics.
Yeah.
And then you started. And so, what did you end up doing just that first year when you got into the business?
Yeah, so my first year was $55,000 in revenue. Okay. Yeah, so we did $55,000, which, like, at the time, seemed like a lot of money to me. I was like, holy shit. I also did like my rehab, so I went back to university my second year, played hockey as well. Like, I went back to hockey and then did my business. So it was hard because I was doing varsity hockey, which is like every single day, and travel, and then school, and then the business. So it definitely was like harder. So we did 55,000. I think it was, then my second year was like 130, and then my third year was like 260.
So, but 55,000 is part-time because you're doing all this other stuff.
Oh, and that's from April, like once exams are done, to August 15th.
Oh, so you only, because
I had to go back to training camp and stuff. So that was like 4 months, maybe. April, yeah, it was like 5 months.
So next year, are you still in school? Are you still in hockey?
Yeah, so I did stay in school. So I stayed at university and graduated. Reason being was because I was on the hockey team, and like, you don't start something and quit it. But like, my interest in going to pro hockey and all of that after was just like zero. I just wanted to double down on my business. And then I finished university. I was just like the first person in my family to ever go and do it. So, and I was on the hockey team, so I finished it, but it was like,
yeah, you were
the definition of a waste of time. I was looking around at the people in there, I'm like, I can't believe you people are paying, because I got like, I guess taken care of besides just like my school paid for.
Yeah, because of the hockey.
From hockey, yeah. But then I was looking around at these other students. I'm like, I can't believe you people are paying money to be here right now. And I would be there like paying for like online education. I was listening to this, just called Door to Door University. And I'd be in there like paying for like a $97 thing and like listening like that in class to something else. Like that's what it was like at university. It was the same as like high school. Like you can just fake it and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Which is basically why it's a waste of time for everybody. Yeah. So 130 the second year,
around like 250,
250 the third year. And then when you graduate, you're like, I can blow this up and I could take it.
Yeah.
Like so when you started doing it full time, what did it go to, I guess, in the fourth year?
Yeah. So then I went from about 260 to about 400K, a little shy of 400. I don't know about you, but for me, I find like I need everything on like a Google. I find my years, I couldn't imagine being as long as you've been in business and then try to recall stuff. I feel like it all blends, but it was like, went from like 260 to like close to 4, maybe it was a little in the threes, high threes. We added seal coating that first year because now like we had more capital, so you get into the seal coating stuff. And then we also added Christmas lights that year as well.
And seal coating, explain to people what that is.
So seal coating, basically what you're doing is like you're spraying, it makes like the asphalt look black. So like you'll do like oil base or like an asphalt emulsion. And essentially what it does is like just preserve the asphalt for longer.
So do people have asphalt driveways in Canada?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Down here, there's a lot less of that. But
yeah. So depending on where you live, there's different services. Like, so even no matter where you live, there are asphalt parking lots. Like that's what.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So no matter what, that will be like, you could do any service anywhere, but there's certain services that are more popular. Like if you're in California, like soft washing is really popular, or Seattle, because they got a lot of like moss on the roofs, like soft washing. Whereas like where I'm from, that's not really a thing, but seal coating is big.
Almost every commercial building that we buy, the industrial stuff, if it does, a lot of it has asphalt, and we always seal coat everything. So it's just because you finish the building, everything looks new. Yeah. And the parking lot just looks old and beat up, and you can literally make it look like you just poured it today.
Yeah, it's funny how like a parking lot or a driveway really, like, it sounds stupid, but like it really makes it like look either good if you have a like a nice parking lot, or makes the whole building look old.
Yeah, and that's what we saw is we would renovate the whole building, and everything look good, but then you go do the parking lot and it looks like you poured a brand new one, everything's striped perfect. Yeah, it makes a huge difference when somebody pulls up and they're like, man, this is nice.
I love asphalt sealing. It's definitely my second favorite service.
Okay.
We sub it all out now because we had 5 trucks going. Like I think this would be my fifth year probably in business. We had 5 trucks going driveway sealing, and then we would still get so busy that we were subbing out jobs. And then my accountant was like, hey, you're only making like 9% more when you do it in-house. So we started subbing it all out now.
Yeah, then you have to worry about labor, people quitting.
Yeah, and they're all beater vehicles too.
Repairs and maintenance.
Yeah.
Truck broke down this morning, can't get to the job. Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like the more that you can contract, as long as it's not you're managing the jobs and you're not, performing a bad service or, not having something up to par, probably worth it to contract as much as you can out, instead of trying to manage all kinds of employees and make a couple extra percent.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the service. And then also like what the reason why we're able to like make good money. Like if you just go and start a business tomorrow and start subbing, it's going to be hard because you have no trust, you have no credibility, you have no brand. Whereas like for us, we have the brand name up, so we're good on we're professional more than like the average asphalt company. So we can charge a pretty premium price, and a lot of these asphalt companies are really bad at marketing themselves, and like it's insanely so compared to even any other service. Asphalt's really like let's call it rough and around the edges kind of idea industry. So there's so much money if you're just a little bit more professional to actually like sell the jobs and make a good margin.
So you're 5, you're kind of doing it full time. Do you add any other services outside of the asphalt and the gutters and the windows and the Christmas lights?
That would be like our core. Yeah. Gutters, our guards, Christmas lights, windows. Yeah, we got out of the power washing and stuff. And then now it's just windows, gutters, Christmas lights, and guards.
So let's talk a little bit about the Christmas lights, because people are super intrigued by, they just don't believe the numbers. They don't believe that you can go in one season. I also think they're probably thinking a season's like a month long. But how long is a season for Christmas lights? Like when do you start? And then when do you end? Yeah,
so Christmas light season for us is 10 weeks. Okay. So we do all of October. Like we start the first week of October, and then we go till second week of December. And every year it gets a little bit longer, earlier starting.
Yeah, the guy we talked to yesterday, he would push, if it was repeat business, he would give him a discount to go earlier.
Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah.
September, I mean, even, early September, like he would try to give discounts. So he didn't cram it all into the 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. So what does something like that look like? What do? You show up. How many guys does it take to do a house?
Yeah, so like Christmas business numbers, like for like someone as a top down. I always tell guys, like if it's you and like one other guy helping you, you should be doing 3,000 a day worth of installs. Okay. Like PadPal, we do 5,000 is what we aim per vehicle. So I always like under promising to guys, because then they go or listen to the podcast and they do 4,000, like they're amped. So usually I tell guys, 3,000 like per vehicle per day. And essentially what you do is you buy commercial grade lights. So you buy they're much different than the ones you just buy at a hardware store. You want to order those in, commercial grade lights. It's all custom cut to fit their house. And then it's a leasing agreement. So we'll sign people from anywhere from like 1 season to 3 seasons long. And then we install it. We provide maintenance during the season. But if you're using good lights, like you have less than 5 calls a year kind of idea, store them. And then next year we go hang them up again.
How do you store them? So you go to the house, you put the lights up. Well, let's go back to whenever you put the lights up, how do you bid it? Like how many, do you just do it per foot, or how does it work when you go bid a house?
Yeah, so by foot, and then as well as like kind of difficulty, depending if it's like first floor, second floor, like some jobs, like if the first floor is really far out, it makes it harder to get the second floor stuff. But yeah, generally like per foot, and then we have $1,000 minimum.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. So you're not showing up to a bunch of houses doing a bunch of $250 jobs.
No, so Christmas lights, it's I always tell people it's not a service, it's an experience. Like that's what we really like push, as it being an experience. So basically like we'd qualify the lead and then like make sure that they're good on the phone, and then we schedule an in-person quote. We go there with the iPad and like a light sample, like get them really like excited for it. We do a design like right there on the spot of what it's going to look like, collect 50% deposit, and then we go do the install, collect the rest of it, and most of them are on like 2 seasons or 3 seasons. Take down the lights and you're good to go.
And so they sign a contract and it's X amount of dollars for each season?
Yeah.
And how much do they put the deposit up just for that 1 season?
50%. So the way we run our contract, 50% as soon as they sign, 50% after install. And then this is a beautiful thing for like home service businesses, is that all the other 50% deposits for the following year come out August 1st. So August can be a hard time for home service businesses when they're starting up, because like they didn't like manage their spring properly, their spring rush, or like because people are like away during the summer, stuff like that. So like having that huge cash influx of deposits for the following year is huge.
What do you use to quote the job?
What do we quote it with?
Yeah, when you said you show them a design.
Yeah.
And what program do you use to do the design and the rendering?
So if someone that's like starting out, I'd say like Google Earth is the easiest way to measure it. And then the rendering, it's called Jolly Lights. It's like an app. It's just simple on the iPad. Yeah. That's what I'd say is the easiest way to get going. For me, I'm an eyeballer now. Like I'm sure like you, like I can look at a house and guess within, like we tracked it 1 year. It was like 11% difference between like me, like just me eyeballing it versus just installing it. So
what, on average, what is the average ticket price that y'all have for a house up there? I guess it probably depends on neighborhood too.
Yeah. So this year, we haven't done our average ticket for this 2024 yet, but our average ticket last year was $1,800.
Yeah. The kid that was in Arizona, his average was $1,600 out there. Yeah. My neighborhood was an anomaly. I posted a video, and of course my Christmas light guy, I think he averages closer to 3,500 house, but again, it's different. It's just, I'm not saying, he does a lot of houses in my neighborhood specifically. Yeah. So the jobs are just bigger. So you're going to have, the neighborhood has like thousands of oak trees everywhere. And so you're talking about doing one oak tree all the way to the tips everywhere. I mean, it's a huge expense just for one.
Yeah.
And so that's why his average is much higher. Yeah. But I guess it sounds like the 16 to 1800 would be kind of the rest of America.
We're probably a little over 2K this year. Like we did go this year and did like increase prices and stuff like that. So we're probably pushing closer to 2K now, but yeah, like definitely there's other guys that have $3,000 like average tickets and stuff like that.
How does someone go about getting the leads? How are you getting most of your leads? I'm sure some of it's referral now, but if it's their first year, like how would they generate any type of leads?
Well, I always say to people, you can be lazy, but you can't be broken lazy. So it kind of depends on, and I hate like not giving a specific answer, but if I was going to start out and I have no money, I would just go door to door. You'd want to go to get a light sample, so you can buy one online from like Christmas light contractors. And I have videos on my page where just like you wear it around your neck so you can show them the lights, because as soon as you don't have to plug them in, you can tell that they're like nice quality. And then I would just go door to door or going into local businesses. That's another easy one for Christmas lights to get in if you go early.
Yeah, we do our corporate office too.
And then after that, Facebook ads work really well for Christmas lights.
So if somebody does have money or a little bit of money and they want to start and they want to generate leads and not go door to door all day, when they run the Facebook ad, do they just target that zip code, and do they target a certain amount of like, age range, or what do you target when you run the ads?
Yeah, so we'll run like a few different campaigns, but like the most general would be you want to target people that are high income, and then also zip codes that are high income. It's not a service for everyone. Like window cleaning, you can get anyone on window cleaning or gutters, but Christmas lights, like it's not really a need, like a necessity. So you do want to target people that have disposable income, they want convenience.
They don't have the time.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do it themselves.
Yeah. Like so we geotag all of our different jobs. One of my guys did that, which is crazy amount of work.
That's cool. Yeah.
And our permanent lighting jobs are all of our like lighting jobs, are insanely dense, because once you get one, like they don't leave, because you don't go and have a beautiful house one year and then just don't do it the next. No. And then also like everyone else wants to do it too, because like if we went and did your house, like there's not a chance in a million years your wife, like any of the wives on that street would go and be like, oh wow, Sean did a good job this year.
Actually,
they can tell right away.
That's exactly what happened on my street. So where we used to live, we had the smallest lots in the neighborhood, so we're kind of on the, I guess, lower street if you're looking at the map. Mm-hmm. The most south street. And so, some people did the lights there, wasn't crazy on my street. And when I did my house the first year, I just had one huge oak tree and did the whole thing like all the way to the ends. And two of my neighbors are like, hey, who's that guy you used to do your Christmas lights last year? Like, I want to get him out here this year. So gave them the number. And then another year goes by and I see him doing almost every single house on my street, the one guy. And so it was cool. It's like, it was all based on referral. And then, I didn't give everybody the phone number, but I gave it to 4 or 5 people, and then they gave it to a couple other people. And so ended up getting huge amount of referrals just from that one single house that he had on that street.
Yeah, we have a lot, like a lot of big homes is the target market for sure. Like, yeah, we have, and those are like the best customers too. Like those are the customers that like they know their agreement expires and they're messaging us in August to make sure that like they're following up like the next day to make sure that they can give us and sign up again.
I think that probably goes to any aspect of any service company, any business, anything. Somebody with a little bit extra income is going to be a better customer, number one, because they're not going to nickel and dime you to death. Mm-hmm. They just want it done for convenience and it saves them time. Just like, come do it.
Yeah, it's also like the amount of money to people too. Like we have one neighborhood where it's like the rich neighborhood of Ottawa. It's called Manotick, mm-hmm. And there's this one neighborhood we probably have like 70% of the houses in there, and those are all like bigger jobs. And yeah, it's something that like I want to get the whole entire neighborhood and make it a thing, because.
A good question would be for somebody too. So let's say, they knock on somebody's door, they get a Facebook lead, they start their business that year. Do you, after you put the lights up in the yard, do you ask if you can put a sign in the yard, or you don't do that? Like,
we just put the sign in.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't usually ask. We just throw it in. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious, especially around that season. I feel like a lot of people would call on it too. I'm sure people eventually take it out after you leave it there for a while, but
yeah, and they'll store it in the garage for you. People are really good for that. Yeah, like we. So if I could go back actually on like on advice for someone marketing, for Christmas lights, yard signs are like, it's stupid. Like, I don't know why it is. Like, all services like yard signs work. I know people don't believe that might not call. Like, it's kind of the same thing with door hangers. Like, people say, oh, I throw out all the door hangers. Cool, but there's other people that like put them on their fridge and wait till they need their driveway sealed and then scan it. So yard signs for Christmas lights are probably the highest ROI thing you could do, and they're cheap.
I would think so. And the same thing, I think a yard sign's a lot better than a door hanger, because it almost proves that like, okay, I know this guy, James, on the end of my street. Like, I'm sure he probably used a contractor that was legitimate. And so if you see the yard sign with a phone number, you're probably going to call. You're like, oh, I know that guy. Like, he probably has a reputable company, as opposed to like a door hanger that you don't even know the person that left it on your door. Yeah. Not that it doesn't work. I just think you'll need way more volume. Yeah. And if you had yard signs of all the houses you mowed or all the houses, whatever, for a little while, I mean, I feel like you get a ton of calls from it. People are more likely to probably trust if their neighbor did it already.
A strategy that I do is I call it like the neighborhood hero. So essentially what we'll do is like, we'll get to a neighborhood, we do the job, we'll put the yard sign. We'll also door hanger that neighborhood, and then we'll put yard signs at like the exits of the neighborhoods, like kind of like just as you're gonna go turn out of the neighborhood, like across the street, and then we'll also like run a Facebook ad there. So now you're like,
you're basically retargeting.
You're like silently everywhere, you know, like you're just
a really good
there,
idea.
and then you go back like a week later, do a job, and then knock, and then people are like, oh, I've seen your stuff or whatever. Another really good way to use door hangers is as soon as you get to the job that you're doing that day, do the 5 or 10 around you, and then that way, like if someone's there, they'll see that if the customer comes home, they see the door hanger, they'll scan it, and then you can be right there to do your quote. Or what you can do is after you're done the job, you can see who's came home because the door hanger is not on there. So that's another good way to use them.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I feel like those are a lot of good tips for people that, especially, I feel like that's such a good business for a high school kid or something that, you know, is trying to figure out how to make money. I mean, you and your friends, all you have is time.
Yeah.
It's like
I have guys that are 17 years old in home service U making like $30,000 a month. I'm like, at 17 years old, I would have bought a fast car and got arrested. Like they're definitely more mature than me, and like I was just like a hockey guy, I guess, my whole life. But yeah, there's guys in there that are grade 12 doing like 40K in Christmas lights. It's like crazy.
That's really cool. So how much will the company that you still have that you're running, what's the revenue just for the Christmas lights? Do you know what that is this year, or maybe last year?
Around like 300K. So we've been like kind of like on like I've been calling it cruise control the last 2 years, not really like scaling it up. Kind of got to a point where like I'm not needed every single day, and it makes money and it operates smoothly. So that's basically like what we can do without adding more vehicles on.
That's exactly what the kid said yesterday. He's like, at some point you have to either do more work or you have to add more vehicles, which I'm kind of at that point now. And so you just don't want to keep scaling it, but you could if you wanted to keep growing it, hired more labor.
Yeah, well, I brought someone in this year that like I was hoping that would have that like kind of next level of skill set to take it to the next to scale it up, but it didn't really work out that way. So
man, people are the limitation on almost every business.
Yeah,
it's like you already have the model, and if you could find the right person, you could probably give him a percentage if it was the right guy of like any new business, and it's like he could go crush it and like do 600 or 500 the first year and get a percentage. And it's like people are just lazy. It's so weird to me.
It's I think
they want you to give them the money first, and then they think they should do the work instead of just be like, dude, give me the job. I will show you. I will knock it out of the park. And if that happens, most of the time the business owner is like, here, like just take it and run with it. Like I don't want any part of it. And so people don't really understand that if they just did that, they would kill it in any company really.
That's the kind of opportunity I gave him, was like to get some equity. But the disconnect is people think like it's the disconnect of like how much actual hard work it takes to be successful. Like for him, like he'd finish at like 5 and be like, oh man, this is so hard. I'm like, bro, like everything, you have someone that runs everything, like everything else, like you just need to grow it.
That's the difference.
It takes a lot of work to become
successful. That's the difference between average people and people that are, you know, extraordinary really. I posted something about this morning. It's like, you actually don't even have to do that much more than like, because people are so like the bar is so low for most people that like if you like really bust your ass and perform, you'll like outwork every single person around you. It's like there's nothing to it.
Yeah, it's really opened my over the last 2 years, especially like doing the online stuff. It's really opened my eyes just how easy it is to succeed, because that stat like, oh whatever, 90% of businesses fail, but it's like how many of those people like register a business, message 3 people, then never do anything again.
Exactly. Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
That's like, well, you only called 3 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to 3 houses and nobody wanted Christmas lights. It's like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
You're not going to close anything like that. And then you give up. I felt like that's why I was always, whenever I was in my 20s, I'm like, I could outwork that guy. I was like, I knew that. I was like, there's no way that guy's going home at 5. That guy's playing on his phone. That guy's doing this. Like, I know that if I work all night, like I'll crush every single person around me.
I feel like that's the only thing I had going
yeah, right.
For me, really, to be honest with you. Yeah, like I was a hockey guy. Like I didn't know anything about anything. It's just that I know that like all those years when I was starting it out, that it didn't matter if it was a Saturday or a Sunday. Like I was still going to do my quotes. It didn't matter if whatever was going on, like if it was Canada Day, any holidays, like that meant that I know that, and I like days like that because I know that I'm working and someone else isn't, so I'm like getting ahead of them. Like that's my mindset.
I was always like that too. Yeah. The one thing that I think, you know, is good about what you're doing and about what a lot of the stuff that's online, if you find somebody like yourself that built a real business and took you years of door knocking and all this stuff to build that blueprint, it's like you're giving somebody a shortcut for like such a small amount of money. Like they're going to get their ROI in like a week, and then they're going to be making money. It's like, it's the craziest thing. And again, online space is big. I'm sure there's, a lot of people that, aren't as credible, but if you find somebody that has really done it, what they're trying to like give you the blueprint for, or, the program that they're selling you, most likely it's going to work if you apply yourself. And the good thing about it is you're shortening like your learning curve from what took you 8 years to like master. And then they could not make any of those mistakes and be like, don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this, and do this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of the best things in the world. And when I was younger, there was no access to information. So it's like, I lived in a small town, same thing. And you just don't know anything. And you're trying to find people that can teach you, but there's no one there because they don't know anything either.
Yeah.
That, especially about business or, I'm trying to learn everything I can. And I think that's the beauty of the internet. It really did change like the access to information. And then it also changed like, oh, if that guy can do it, like I can do it. Like he's no different than me. He didn't have any money. He started with nothing and he's living in his car, and he knocked on a door, and he's like, a lot of people that are hustlers can go, give me that opportunity. Like I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so, the online education thing, it's something I'm pretty passionate about. And, I think you want to make sure that the person you're getting the education from has built a real business, and the information they're giving you is based on like actual like experience and results, and like you've been successful at it building that company, and you still do it to this day. So it's not like you learned it from somebody else and then you're just teaching other people. Like they, so I definitely give someone that advice that is looking around online, make sure the person is super credible, make sure they actually really did that. And then their course is probably really valuable because again, it's like you're paying the money to shorten your learning curve.
Yeah, it's Candace asked me in the car when they picked me up at the airport, like one advice I'd give to my younger self. I said that I'm like, invest in getting help, like learn from people and know what they're talking about. It is the absolute fastest. Like if someone came to me this January and said, hey, I want to start a home service business, like I can look them in the eyes and say, hey, 100% guaranteed, I can get you past 100K your first year. And if they don't, like it's 100% on them. Whereas
and you've had enough students now. It's like, I know when you apply yourself, they all succeed, right? And that's why you said, I was like, I can guarantee it. But you're going to have a lot of people that want like to do the very, very, very little work and think like the something they do is just magic. It's like, oh, I can buy this and it's the secret.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's the secret to the shortcut.
Yeah.
But you still have to apply yourself.
Yeah, to apply it.
Yeah, and do the work.
Yeah, it's definitely the best thing you can do is in getting like I'm actively trying to figure out who I need to get help from next. Strategic. That's why last night I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to get as much help from you as I can.
I'd be willing to help you for sure. And I think when you do get to a certain point, you want to help people. It's like, dude, don't make the same mistake I did. Like, here, don't do this, do this.
You can give like I can give like $100,000 lesson in a sentence to people sometimes. Like it's like painful like lessons or expensive lessons, or ones that were just complete 3 months of trying something that just doesn't work, and someone say, hey, I have this idea. I can say, hey, trust me, bro, I've done that. It doesn't work, and just save them countless hours or thousands of dollars. And it's
like, look at you. It's like, I guess before, a lot of the services were on the internet or, education, you've like happened to stumble across it because you were in college and the teacher's assistant just happened to have a nice car, and you're like, but you were like, ask the question. It's like, can you teach me?
Yeah.
And a lot of people won't even ask that question.
Well, the crazy thing is, so he helped me for my first 3 years, and I kind of like outgrew him, just kind of part of life. He had other focuses and stuff like that. And I was like craving more home service help. But again, like even when I was starting this to be 8 years ago, there wasn't anyone that I could find at least that was creating home service content for educational. So what I had to do was I would go to like the Russell Brunson and like learn about website. And I was doing all these random ones and then trying to apply it to home services because there wasn't that much knowledge out there on it. So it's cool to see like home services becoming a bit more cool now, I guess, and more people putting content out there. But yeah, if someone can go and find, I always tell people, follow like a few people that do what you want to do and really follow them and like learn about them. And then once you've kind of honed in on who you want, just pull trigger on it, because 100% it's going to get you where you want to be.
I like the home service space just because, number one, I feel like, when you're talking about like this crazy speed of technology now, AI, like all this stuff, I feel like the home service business is going to be steady for a long time. Mm-hmm. You're still going to see growth. Everyone's still going to need it. And then honestly, the AI and the other stuff like that will actually probably help the person that's either quoting. I mean, over time, that part of it will get easier, but you're still going to have to perform the service.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a good place to invest like time, money, you know, on education, on building the business, because there's no way it's going to go away tomorrow. Yeah,
no, definitely not. Like there's buildings always being built. Like COVID, everything was booming because people are at home. They want their homes to look better. Like, the home service, and that's what I love having. Like I always call it like a real company, not just the internet one, because like there's nothing that could go on tomorrow or something that could come out that would completely destroy my business. Whereas like tomorrow I could just be taken off the internet and you're done.
Yeah, no, that's true. So the Christmas light stuff you kind of ran through. Do you have any idea how much you'll do on like just the gutter cleaning side of it?
Just separating everything out it would be a pretty big wild. Yeah, it'd be a pretty big guess, like off the top of my head.
So Christmas lights, you kind of remember the other
Christmas lights just because the 300K was last year. I just know this year that we'll do around 300K, maybe a little bit more, just because we didn't add a vehicle.
Just trying to give people an idea of, you know, how much you're doing in these other services just outside of the Christmas lights, or how much is like maybe your students are doing, you know, on average, like when they start the gutter cleaning for the first year, maybe would be a help to some people.
Yeah, I can kind of break it down into like a daily, like what someone could expect. Even that might be probably more helpful for people. Yeah, so I kind of ripped through the most common services. So first one would be window cleaning. For that, you can do exteriors, would be the outside of the house, window panes, frames, sills. On that, your average house will be about $250. We charge $10 per pane. And then your gutter cleaning, you want to charge $3 per foot for that, about $300 a job. If you're doing window cleaning or gutter cleaning as a solo, just you and yourself in your vehicle, you should do about $1,000 a day, $1,200 a day. If you're,
God, that's so good.
Yeah, and that's pretty much pure in your pocket.
Yeah. What do they need to do the window cleaning? Just window cleaner and then a certain size squeegee,
scrubber, squirt bottle, and soap, and then your rags. That's it.
Dude, talking about starting a business
you could go do bungalows, and like I could leave here. We could go to Home Depot. It'd be cool. Like go to Home Depot. We could go buy $50 worth of stuff, and I could make $300 before I got on my flight at 5. Like guaranteed. Like that's not even like I would just go to a bungalow, and you could literally go without equipment. So go to someone's house and say, "Hey, I can clean your gutters if they have a ladder." Like you could really start from nothing. And it's funny because people see me now and think that I was always like the wrap vehicles and all that and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like our first vehicle was my 2003 Chevy Malibu that a few months before that I was sleeping in. Then our first like official work vehicle was a Nissan Cube I bought it for $1,800. Like just bought a beat up F-150 that was from like 1971 that like lasted for the summer, but that was enough to make enough money to get a slightly less beat up one. Like you can really go from 0 to making 100K in your first year. And a lot of home service use students, I don't know, like that's literally before we jumped on the pod, I texted to get all the updates on everything. We're doing that now. So I don't like giving numbers unless I'm like confident on it, but we have a significant, like a mind-blowing amount of people that do 100K in their first year, like a significant amount.
Well, if you can do $1,000 a day by yourself, it's pretty easy to make 100K a year. Yeah. I mean, you'd literally have to work just half the month. I mean, if you really were like doing it at spare time, if you're like apply yourself and do it full time, guy, you could crush it. And then you have the money to go hire an additional person and, you know, maybe back up off the labor and then actually run the company and start scaling it.
And I have guys from like kind of all like motivation. Like I have guys that are like, I call them like blue collar boys who like, one guy that comes to mind right now, his name's Stanton. Like he was working in a factory forever, has three young kids. He's only like 24, like young guy. And when I first met him was in a tough spot. And now he does 170,000 and he has a guy that helps him out, and he works for himself and he takes the winter off, like takes down the lights and then takes 2 months off. And he's making really good life for himself. From when I met him, he was working in a factory and was like, didn't have anything really financially going, and now he's.
If anybody's wondering what their high school kid should do, it's definitely look into this, because imagine your kid, your high school kid, takes this course and then he goes and, you know, does all these services, does Christmas lights, and then he makes more than both of his parents make together in one year and one season by doing lights and then doing everything. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's insane, especially for a young kid. I don't know, super awesome.
Yeah, and we've helped like electricians that are like stuck on like owner operator mode, like get it up to 100,000 a month in a year just because they needed business help. Like a lot of like the blue collar guys need help with like their marketing and like making it into a business. So like that's another really, really cool one to see is guys that go from, I don't want to say struggling electrician, but like he was, I think 8K a month, and then he'd shared like a year progress that had 81,000 completed that month and 106,000 in sales.
I feel like there's a lot of good labor guys out there, right? Like they're really good at their craft, whether plumber, electrician, but like you said, maybe don't know a lot about social media, maybe don't know how many leads you can actually get for such a little amount of money.
Yeah.
And then really transform their business. And like, they just have to have somebody like you, just like, give me the steps and I'll put it together. Cause some people just for some reason can't wrap their mind around it. Maybe they just like, they're so focused on plumbing or electrical. They're like, oh, I could never do that. I could never do 80,000 a month. Like they can't even imagine that it's available, but it's probably super easy, right? Now that you have the roadmap. And if somebody's a really good electrician, if they give decent service, they could crush it.
Yeah. It's just a lot of little things that kind of stack up to the full picture. But yeah, there's the demand for the demand for reliable home service company. Like even if you just answer the phone, you're ahead of your competition. If you answer the phone and you're busy and you say, hey, I'll call you tonight when I get back to the office, and you actually do it, like you can start with like little things like that and start beating out competition.
God, I think people need to hear that too. It's like, again, you do not have to do that much to pretty much beat everybody else in an industry.
Yeah.
It's like you just go a little bit above and beyond. And honestly, communication is the biggest thing in any business. Yeah. If you communicate and you follow up and you tell the truth and you're just honest, like, man, dude, you'll crush it. Over time, if you do that for long enough, you'll crush it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an opportunity. And a lot of people today just want to be like TikTok stars or drop shipping and stuff like that. Like it's just,
I had an e-commerce business and it's tough. Yeah. And especially, I mean, this is kind of before some of the drop shipping days and there wasn't a lot of platforms out there. It's a really hard business to have inventory and, some stuff's not going to sell, some stuff does. So you're going to have sell through on some of that different stuff, but it's a hard business. It's not like it's definitely going to be harder than doing home service and knowing how much you can make every day with a little amount of money, and then also not having to carry a bunch of inventory. Like really your only cost is labor a little bit on most of the stuff.
I think it's just because it's not sexy. Like I just think it's like, like for me, like saying like when I was starting out saying, oh, I have a window cleaning business. Like even the funny thing is even now it's like if I went to like an event, if I didn't talk about the social media stuff at all, and I say, oh, I have a home service company, we do window cleaning. Like you could be around like some like lawyers and stuff and they'll like turn their nose at you, but like you make way more money than they do. Like it's just not, or if you're talking to your friends, like it's not a sexy business. And then a lot of people online broadcast like the remote lifestyle drop shipping thing. And
I would agree with that. That's where I think a lot of the like misconception is like, because they see people on social media, it's like, oh, this guy doesn't do anything and he makes all this money. Probably the majority of that is not true. Again, will there be a couple successful people? Probably. But I think people buy into that because they are lazy and they're like, oh, maybe I could just do this and not have to do anything. Yeah. And then that's where the problem is. And then they go do it and it's like, oh, it didn't work. Well, most people are lazy. And
also the thing I tell people is there's a lot of smart people in the world and there's a lot of dumb people in your city. Like when you go and you start selling stuff online, you're competing against the guy in China that's friggin' 100 IQ points smarter than you and has a computer degree and whatever sort and knows the Google Analytics, and you're there trying to sell a shitty product on your shitty website and have no money to run ads. Like,
and a lot of that's based on price too. Yeah. Where is a home service? If you give good customer service, you're not having to lower your price every other week just to keep your business.
Yeah,
exactly. They're gonna buy the service and the time.
It's not a trend either. Like a lot of stuff online. Like I've met, I'm sure like you, I've met a lot of successful people in my life.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I can only, and if I put you in that of what for your supplement business, you'll be the third person I know that's actually done like some sort of online like e-com brand that's actually like really successful with it. And the other friend I have that's done really well with it, had his CFA like for finance or whatever, and then did law school. Like he's in halfway through articling, and then that's when his Shopify store finally took off. Like he's a genius. Like he's very, very, very smart, and he's selling like high ticket niche things where he has like supplier relationship, like way beyond just, hey, set up a Shopify store and drop ship stuff from China. Anyone I've ever met that's successful in that stuff are way, way smarter than me. Whereas a lot of our customers that have these $3 million, $4 million homes, they own tiling and roofing and flooring companies. Like that is the people that our customer base are rich, are contractors and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I think the downside to social media is like the get rich quick thing, and it's like, oh, I can do nothing and get rich. Yeah. And people just are always going to buy into that because they do want to do the bare minimum, and like, oh, I could just take this one thing and pay for this course and then be rich. Yeah. And it's not. If you just hustle and apply yourself and just have the right information, you'll kill it.
Yeah. The other thing is 6 months of lockdown. I was like, yeah, call it 3 years or 5.
Yeah.
And the home services is nice because you make money right away, but I always tell people, like, for instance, if I just woke up today and had the companies that I have, and it was 5 years ago, it would fall apart because I don't have the skill sets to manage the companies, and I would be stupid with the money because I wouldn't know how to manage the money because I didn't earn it.
I guess when you have your students that start making crazy money, like $30,000-$40,000 a month, and they're a kid, do y'all give them advice on like how to continue to scale or how to, maybe manage their money?
We haven't gotten into any of that stuff yet. No, that's not something we've gotten into. We have like guest speakers come on and help them with like their bookkeeping and stuff like that. But
which is a big thing.
Yeah, and we're doing like our year-end student surveys and stuff like that right now. Like that's literally like what we're doing this whole week is just getting feedback and stuff. But that is a good idea because there are some guys now that are doing well and like.
The bookkeeping thing is a big deal though, because I think when anybody starts a business and it starts doing well, nobody's doing it.
No.
Like nobody's doing their bookkeeping. Nobody's not really know exactly how much money they made because it's just money in, money out of the checking account. And so, when you do start making money, it really is worth the money to spend on, a good bookkeeper or have somebody like you show them how to do, hook them up with somebody or how to pick somebody, because I do feel like that's a big part of business. And a lot of people wait a little too long before it's like, oh, I can't spend the money on it. It's too expensive. And it's not really.
No.
And it helps you really understand your numbers and like what the business is really doing and makes you make better decisions.
I thought I was rich after my first official year outside of university was like, we did like whatever, close to $400K. And I thought I was rich. And then I was set up as a sole proprietor. Yeah, taxes. So I got 50% tax. So I wasn't rich at all. That was like and that's when I went and got proper help on the bookkeeping and all of that stuff. But I feel like a lot of people get intimidated by like setting up your business, insurance. For some reason, that's like just from talking to people, that on its own just intimidates people and stuff. And it's a lot easier than.
What is, that's something I didn't go over. What is kind of like a general price range for liability if somebody, wants to get liability once they start having employees and they're in somebody's yard hanging Christmas lights? Like what's usually the average policy cost?
Yeah, so that's a hard, like the stuff so home service, the thing that's the hardest to help people with is insurance because everywhere's so different.
Price dependent.
But like about $100 a month or $150 a month, you should be able to have like general liability. Like it depends on where you're at. But I remember when I was first starting out, it wasn't much more than 100 in the hundreds range.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, and I always tell guys like do it right. Like you could get away with not doing it for a while and stuff, sure. But I always tell guys like if you're gonna do it right. Like get your business set up, register your business, get some simple insurance, and
which is super cheap now to do.
Yeah.
You can do everything online, right?
Just I think a lot of the guys in the States in home service use Next, I think is what they use. It's called Next Insurance is one of them that I've heard them talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, probably right specifically for
home services.
Yeah. Usually you'll find an insurance company that like
specializes
in some field or something, and then they'll write most of the insurance in that category because they really understand it. They really understand the losses and the claims that they're going to get.
Yeah, a lot of guys I think use that Next one from the States.
That's probably pretty good information too. Is there something else somebody would need to know when starting a home service business, or what to look out for, or maybe some lessons that you learn now that after doing it for 9 years that you for sure wouldn't do, or something somebody should watch out for, or a mistake they could make? Just like some of the biggest things, if you see your students start doing well, is there something that you would tell them to do or not do?
I'd say the biggest thing is volume. Like when you're starting out, it's if I was gonna give advice to someone that's starting out, it's if you're gonna order the 2,000 door hangers, get them delivered. Like 200 out is not enough. Like knocking on 2 hours a week is not enough. Like, make sure that you're 24/7, like, marketing yourself. There's plenty of free way. You can go on those local Facebook groups, post on there. Like, Nextdoor is another good one. Like, you need to have your mind 24/7 on getting business. I think that'd be a good advice for someone that's starting out. So when I was in university, like, in between classes, I'd go on, we have Kijiji, it's called in Canada, basically like Craigslist. I'd go on in the morning, I'd wake up, I'd post the ads, so we're the top two, because it's free to do. And then after practice and gym in the morning, I'd go delete those 2 posts, post them again. Like, it's just that and we don't have to do that stuff now, of course, but those little things, like if you're able to pick up 3 jobs a week from just, instead of scrolling Instagram or TikTok, like that right there, that's $600 to $1,000 for just using your time better on your phone, like maximizing your output to generate leads. And then I would say another expensive lesson I learned was, don't give up equity in your company for something that you can hire. And that's a little bit more advanced of a tip. But I just see a lot of guys that come in, oh, I want to start my business with my buddy. And I always say to them, hey man, like, straight up, like,
I think that's really good advice. So I do think that that's probably the majority of people, and it's because they've never started a business before. What's going to happen is if you start, even if you're a kid, you're 18, you just graduate high school, him and his buddy, find you, and then they take this and they're like, oh, we could kill this. You or your buddy, one of the guys is not going to want to work barely any, and he's not going to show up, and he's not going to do, then he has 50% of your company. Then it's like a marriage to get out of it. I mean, let's say they start making $200,000 a year. Yeah. Then it's hard to sort it. Who takes what customers, who does it. I mean, it's a nightmare. And so I would agree with you. I feel like that's an amazing tip, especially for somebody that's young and never ran a business before. Especially a business like this, like, you don't need capital. You don't need investors. You don't need any of this stuff. You just need hustle. Yeah.
I think people are afraid to fail on their own. And it's so common. Like the amount of people that want to start it with someone, and I always tell them business partnerships work if you actually, like, me and you could go do a business together, because there's so many things that, like, I have learned and you have learned that are like unwritten, like, business lessons and rules and shit, that we'd be able to do a business partnership, like, again, lay it all out and it's going to go smoothly. Whereas, like, 2 people, just you and your buddy, like, yeah, it's fine at the start, but it's very unlikely to be good forever.
I would 100% agree with that. And then I think the same way on that comment is, it's because we've made thousands of mistakes, and it's like, okay, you already know what's going to happen when something goes bad. One other person's not freaking out. They're not, causing a bunch of problems. It's not like a fight every single time you do something. It's like, oh, it's a logical conversation. This happened and this happened. It's like, oh, that's happened to me 100 times before. And I think I think when somebody starts and, it's him and their buddy, again, the personalities aren't going to match, or I would say normally it's going to be the work ethic. And you start making all this money, somebody stops showing up. They're hanging out, partying every night. This other kid's working all the time. It's like, hey man, like, come on, we started this together. We were supposed to be 50-50. And then it's going to end up falling apart. And then you probably have to start over, because again, like, how do you sort out, if it was a home services business, I guess you could split up the routes, but it's like a marriage. It's like, you're going to both make less money. It's going to be a nightmare to try to sort that out. Really good advice. I never thought about that, and I have learned that. And then my wife kind of learned that too. And so I don't think she could ever be in business with somebody either. No. It works out the way she's built it, and doesn't have to answer to anybody. Is just a lesson that people learn after going through a bad business partnership for sure.
That was expensive. Yeah, that was a good expensive tip. Because I started it myself, and then I gave up equity, and then it was a little over a year later, then someone wanted to buy us out, and before we even left the restaurant, I just went to go chat. It was exciting at the time, and by the time the door closed behind us, the guy was supposed to be my partner was like, yeah, I want the money, because he's like not like driven as me. Like, he's really like, if he won the lottery, he would never do anything again, whereas like, if I won the lottery, I'd be okay, cool. Like, what's something that we could build that's gonna like be a household? Like, what's something we could do with that?
Yeah, that's the difference between somebody that's truly going to end up being successful and then have a fulfilled life. Because dude, how could you wake up and have no purpose every single day? That would be the most work. Even if you have all kinds of money, but you had no purpose, nothing to look forward to, no excitement, just, I don't know. I would feel like that's a terrible life.
Yeah. Terrible. I wouldn't know what to do.
Same thing. I would never retire. I don't want to be the CEO and take every single phone call, but I don't want to retire and do nothing. That would just be horrible.
I couldn't picture it. Yeah.
It's like, what do you do? Just sit around and watch TV every day? And complain?
No. Yeah. Like if you're a builder, like it's like, it's when someone says like, oh, what do you do for fun? I'm like, well, like my business, and I go to the gym.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what I thought.
I don't look at, like, I hate when I have to call working on my business work, because I don't really look at it as work. Like,
I felt like that when I was growing up, and people always used to tell me, man, you need to take a vacation and all this stuff. I'm like, I guess I convinced myself that like, oh, maybe they're right, and maybe I am working too much. But then I would go and I'd hate it.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I going to go? Then so I go, okay, well, I'm spending money to go do something that I hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so I just never really went on vacation in my 20s at all. And again, I kind of fell into that where like so many people are saying this, like, oh, you work too much, you do all this. And I'm like, well, maybe I do. Maybe I will like doing this. And it's like, I didn't like any of it.
Well, I've never had someone that's more successful than me say, hey, you shouldn't be working so. I've never heard that in my life.
It's crazy, right?
I've had them tell me, hey, like, enjoy like, have fun, enjoy it, like, treat yourself. But I've never had them say, oh, Adam, like, why are you working so hard? Like, it's never been a thing. It's also, always like, I think it's because people care, of course, but it'd be like my girlfriend's family, for instance, they all like, it's her mom. They all like, you're always working. Like, yeah, well, your daughter has a really good life, you know. One of us has to be working.
That, and I think people just need to understand it's okay to do what you like to do, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, if you like to build companies, if you like to work out, like, do more of that. Yeah. Don't listen to anybody else and say, hey, you should do this and you should do this. Is like, they don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, if you enjoy doing that, then it's not really work anyways. Mm-hmm. It's like, I like building companies. I wake up, I can do this, I have purpose and excitement. And so, you know, I fell into that when I was in my 20s just a little bit, and quickly realized, I'm like, no, this is what I like to do. And I am listening to people that's like, that I don't want to be like.
Yeah.
So
that's another big tip is, I don't know why it's like that, but like, you would never see someone go up to someone that's clinically obese and ask them for, hey, like, can you give me some diet advice? But for some reason,
which is true, right?
People always go to their friends or their family or to get advice on doing a business. And I'm like, well, what business do they have? Oh, like, my dad never had a business. Okay, like, what do you mean you're getting it? Like, what do you, like, why would you ask him? It just makes I don't know why it's like that, but any other aspect, you would not go and you wouldn't go to someone that has really bad skin and say, oh, what's your skincare routine? But when it comes to business, someone will go ask their broke friends, hey, should I do a business? Or like, it just, I don't know why it's like that, but it drives me nuts.
Go back to the home service thing. They come home, they're all excited. They're like, man, I could do that. They go tell their dad or their best friend, is like, dude, you're going to be cleaning windows? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, hold on. How much do you make a year? Yeah. How much do you have? It's like, they're almost like discrediting it because they don't even realize how much money it is. Like, or they don't want to do the work. It's like, oh, that's stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's sad, but it's real. Yeah. Or it's like when you first start doing your business, you have people that support you. And then once you really start doing well, it's a lot less. Cause at the beginning it's like, oh, like I'll support them or whatever. But then once you really start doing well, I think people start looking at themselves and they, oh shit, like, look what he's done, and I'm smarter than him. I know Adam, I'm better than him. Like, how's, like, and then it starts making them look inward as well.
That's a good tip for everybody, because I think that's the reason people don't start something, is because they're scared of what either their parents are going to say or their close friends or their family. And they just won't start because, like, oh, they're going to think that I'm making the wrong decision, so I don't even want to start anything. And so if somebody would just like start and figure it out and not worry about what those people are thinking. I know it's easier said than done, especially when you're 17, 18 years old, because you don't really, the education system hasn't taught you that much. You're kind of lost. Like, you don't really know what you want to do with your life. But if you kind of trust your gut and don't care what anybody else is going to say and put your head down and like work your ass off, it'll work out. Yeah. Like, you'll find your path, and you're going to make way more money than all those people that you thought were going to discredit you or did, talk down to you for starting something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. It's one of those things that by the time you get to that point, you don't really care about those people anyways. But
yeah,
I like, similar to, like, we have like a co-working space that we'll rent. Like, it's like more central in the city, and it's in like a Growlings, like a law office. And then I'll get in the elevator and it'll be me wearing like Lululemons and like a tank top and a backwards hat. And then it'll be like a bunch of other guys that are like around my age. And like the like grinding in as a lawyer, I'm like, yo, these guys definitely think that I'm like whatever, and like we did more than they'll make in the whole year in 2 months. Like, it's, and
then it's freedom.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is that is the most rewarding thing about having a business is like, I'm flew down here,
and I think people are probably gonna probably take that a little bit wrong. So it does give you freedom, but it's not the freedom to just not follow up, not answer your phone, not run your business. It's just the freedom to make the choices that you want to make every day. And you're not waking up, going to work for some corporate job and then listening to somebody tell you what to do. And you can't ever express your own opinions, or you're just like stuck in that grind. Can't really ever get raises.
Yeah.
And it's the freedom to go actually make the amount of money you want to make.
Yeah.
Because if you work harder and you work for a corporation and you work more hours, yeah, you make overtime hours. But if you're for yourself, you can just generate endless amounts of leads. You're like, okay, and you can just have the freedom to go make endless amounts of money as much as you want to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people probably think, you know, the get rich quick people, it's like, oh, I can own my own business and just do nothing.
No, that's
and so they mistake the freedom with like thinking that they could do nothing, but that's not the case. Yeah. It's just the freedom to make endless amounts of money. It's a freedom to live the life that you want to live, but you still have to bust your ass and work hard.
It's kind of like those little moments of freedom. Like, for instance, like might be like you're working like Saturday night and your friends are doing something or whatever it may be. But like for me, it's like I'll go to the gym in the morning, I'll come home, and then it's like if it's like a slower day, like I'll have breakfast with my girlfriend at 9:30 in the morning, and then we'll go for a walk, and 10:30 in the morning, okay, cool, I'm gonna start working on my computer, and by that time I already have guys out there that are making money, doing jobs, like. And it's just like we just took 2 hours and went to Pilates with her on like a Wednesday at 1:00 in the afternoon. Like that is really freedom. But then there are those nights where like, yeah, you're up late getting stuff done. And
well, also especially initially, some people might not feel like it's freedom. It feels like freedom to me because I could never work for anybody. So it always felt that way to me. But I think maybe initially when somebody starts a business and they are working Saturdays when their friends are going out, may not feel like freedom initially, but it will be at some point, and for the rest of your life, instead of just trading your time for money. Like you can actually get leverage and hire other people and like grow the business and maybe step back and not do as much as you want to do to keep growing the business because you have other people in place. So again, it's definitely freedom, but it's not the freedom just to be lazy.
That's how you lose it all.
Yes. Or not managing your money, or just not operating your business, or watching over it. But man, if you apply yourself and you hustle and you do get some mentorship or understand some basic principles, you're going to do really well. Yeah. And you actually apply yourself.
Yeah. And put the work in.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the thing is like putting the work in without thinking about the instant result.
Yep.
That's the big one, is just like putting your head down, putting the work in, and not worrying about the big instant result, like counting your wins, of course, along the way and stuff like that. But looking at it as like a long picture.
Delayed gratification is the way you have to look at it. It's like, I didn't make any money today because I hired more people and I'm scaling the business. But it's like, if I can just delay that, and then, 2-3 years down the road, business has 20 employees, you're not really working that much, and they're doing all the work for you and you're just managing. That's how you get there. You just have to have that like delayed outlook to just pass that time where you are grinding every day and you aren't making that much money.
Even if you want to do the lazy route though, like straight up, like the average person, let's say they're making $1,500 a week, you could just work 2 days a week for yourself and make the same amount of money, and then chill. If you really wanted to do that, like people that want the like easy life, like you could just call it that, like good for you, like work 2 days a week for yourself. And the other thing a big thing is people say, oh, it's like risky doing your own business and like it's safe to. But then you'll go and see these big tech companies do like a group Zoom meeting and lay off 300 people. Like, and then now at that point, you don't have the skill sets. Like you're gonna have to get back in the job market. Whereas if PadPal was gone tomorrow, HSU is gone tomorrow, like I still know that I can make money for myself. I don't need someone else to tell me how many hours I can work or how much money I can make or fire me. Like I can just go, and once you have that skill set, it gives you a lot of confidence to do things. Right.
I would agree with that too, because man, we're in the oil field, and so it's boom and bust all the time, and it's just the nature of the business. It's a commodity price, and so you always have layoffs. And people bust their ass, and sometimes there's just no way around it. When rigs go from 1,200 to 300, and there's just no work. It's hard for companies not to lay people off. And so, like you said, it's like if you work for somebody else, that's always the unpredictable side of it, right? It might not be that you did a bad job for that company. It might just be market conditions, loss of business, whatever it was. And to stay alive, they had to lay people off. So That's true. I mean, I know a bunch of people that, you think you're secure in your job and just like randomly out of the blue, it's like, oh, yep, we're not doing any good, laying people off. And then they almost have to start over because you're right. They only have that like one skill.
Yeah. Or they haven't like done any upskilling in 15 years. And now you're in your late 40s, have a family, lost your job. And like, you're not really an attractive prospect to hire, to be honest. Like if you can get someone cheaper or better skilled, like why would you hire someone like that? It gets hard for people.
Yeah, no, man, I love everything you're doing. I think it's a really good place for people to start that don't have a lot of money and, have the hustle and grind and can go out there and just have good work ethic and be super successful at something like that. Yeah. Really cool business. And so I think what you're doing is really cool, teaching people, helping them avoid all the mistakes that you made over the last, 8 years or so. I guess let everybody know where, they can find you, whether it's on IG or TikTok or your website. And then, so if they want to find you, want to reach out more information about the business.
Yeah. So my social media handles, I have YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. It's at Adam Chap, CHAP. And then our website, I believe it's joinhsu.com.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if anybody's interested and has the hustle, then reach out to this guy.
Yeah.
Again, he said earlier, I guarantee you'll make $100,000 a year only if you apply yourself. And he said, I know if you didn't make that, you didn't apply yourself.
Yeah. And people that listen to this podcast, you want to test the waters, like go out and pull up Google Earth, find a rich neighborhood, drive over there, get out of your car, knock on their doors, and do that for 3 hours. You'll find one person in the 3 hours that says yes. And there you go. That should be enough confidence to get them up and going and addicted like me.
Man, really awesome. Bunch of good tips. Appreciate all the information. And man, thanks for flying all the way from Canada.
Well, thank you for having us out. It was a great experience for sure.